Well, hello. Welcome to our new learning session, our live learning session here at United Methodist Communications. Today's topic is using Instagram for local church ministry. My name is John Haney. I'm the Senior Training and Development Specialist here at United Methodist Communications. With me today is Stephen Adair. Stephen is the Senior Social Media Strategist here at UMCOM. And we'll be taking the next 45 minutes just to answer your questions about Instagram for local church ministry. If you do have a question, you can ask that using the chat box next to the video. Or if you're using Facebook, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, you can just type your question in the comments under the video. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Even if you're not using Instagram, chances are you probably have heard of it. And that's because there are a lot of people using Instagram today. There are about 1 billion people using Instagram, and 59% of those people are under the age of 30. About 72% of teens are using Instagram. So it's definitely something to consider using as a platform for your social media presence for your church. There might be some age groups that you're just not reaching using your Facebook page. If you are using Instagram, then we hope to provide some tips that maybe will help you use the platform a little more effectively. So we're just going to jump in with some questions here for Stephen. And here's the first question. So Adrian asked, I have a personal account, but my church presently does not have one. Should we have an account? And if so, how do I convince the leadership that we should have a presence on Instagram? Stephen?
So first off, on all of our, we've had, I think, 2 general social media live Q&As over the last probably 6 months. And I always kind of start out saying the important channels that we should have, or a church should have. And in this order, and this is just my opinion, some people might disagree with me, but every church should have a Facebook page, then an Instagram account, and then a Twitter. So I would say in that order. So, as volunteers or as pastors, there's only so much time that can be given to certain things. So if you are still exploring what channels to have, or if you don't have any of them, I would go Facebook page, which there's some Q&As on umcom.org/webinars that you can look back at to help with some more general questions on Facebook and other things. But Instagram, I would say, is second, which is why we're having this live learning session today. It's important, it's this question, to convince the leadership of the church to have, and I know that sometimes that is necessary to start new things, and especially with social media, and a lot of people don't know the power of social media, or maybe it's just outside their wheelhouse to think that it's important. But it's a place to connect with a new audience. Do you want new people to know what your church is doing, in the community, the difference that you're making? That's why you have an Instagram or you have a Facebook page. It's not so much about the internal audience, although you want them to engage with these channels, but it's to show that that you're doing things, and people aren't just walking in churches anymore as often as they used to. So you're trying to pique interest with these accounts, and you can show that through Instagram, through video and photo. So that's why having an Instagram is important, and you're reaching an audience that might not be on Facebook. It's a younger audience generally. I mean, there's all ages on Instagram.
Sure.
But the younger people, younger than me, I'm 30, and I think that my sister, who's 9 years younger and below, they don't use Facebook as much as I do and above. So this is just a space to be able to promote what you're doing to a different audience that you might not be reaching through your Facebook page. So.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this. So Laura asked, how do you set up an account, and is it tied to a personal account?
So just real quick, we'll go through the basics, because there was a lot of people on the questions that were asked as you were registering to attend this webinar. Where to start? Like, I don't have it. I've heard of it, but I don't know what to do with it. So just real quick, some of you might be more advanced and along the way and just trying to figure out what else you can do with Instagram for your local church. But you can download the app on your phone. Some people didn't know if it was web-based on a computer or versus a phone. You can view things on Instagram on your desktop computer or your laptop. But you don't have the functionality of posting and doing a lot of the things that you need to. So you do need a mobile device, whether that's an Android or a Apple iPhone. And you would download the Instagram app from your app store on whatever device you're using. And just some tips when you do that. It'll walk you through how to set it up and stuff, so it's pretty easy to do that, so I won't walk through that. But I would suggest using your church's main email address. Most churches, if not, you have one through your website or with your domain. Most churches have, maybe even a Gmail address, but I would use that because using a personal email address of the person that's setting it up or using the pastor's email address. Pastors do come and go in our United Methodist churches. So using the most stable email address is the way to go. So if there is transition, that account stays with the email address associated with the church. And also on top of that, your username. I've touched on this on past webinars that we've hosted, but your username should really match across the board. So whatever your website is. So I'll actually refer, I do the social media for the denomination, the United Methodist Church globally, but I also do it for my local church. So through this training, a lot of it more has to do with the local church than for the denomination. So I'll be referring to my local church and what we're doing quite frequently through this. As far as a username, our website address is glendaleumc.org. So I took that, and that is our username on everything. So when there's a new social account or a new social channel that comes up, the latest, greatest thing, I go ahead and go reserve that even if we're not going to use it right away, just so we get the username because you don't want to lose it. For instance, if you go to I'm sure some of you watching go to a Grace United Methodist Church somewhere,
Right.
There's a lot of those, and there's only one Grace UMC username allowed per social channel. So, it's kind of hard, but so it's glendaleumc.org for our website and everything, whether it's our Facebook page username or handle, Instagram account username, Twitter, it's all Glendale UMC. So it's just so much easier to promote that way. To just kind of point. I even have it on the sign outside. We have on the pedestal at the bottom our username with the logos, and not everybody can do that or their sign wouldn't accommodate that, but it's so much easier even if you just have a letterboard sign to say, hey, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the same thing. So it's just easier to promote, to build that audience and stuff.
And just to piggyback what you were saying about using the church email address, I've run into so many churches doing trainings out in the field where someone has set up an account and then they're not there anymore or something happens. You want to be able to have access to those accounts.
Yeah, a lot of what I hear, it's usually regarding Facebook, that somebody has set up a Facebook page and they no longer attend the church or the pastor's moved on or whatnot. So just with all of these, and I'll kind of mix in some Facebook stuff here too, just because it is super important and it goes alongside with Instagram. And one doesn't actually substitute for the other. We had some questions like that too. It's like both are very important, and they do different things. But to have more than one admin on pages, just so if somebody does leave or something, there's always somebody who has access, so you won't have to duplicate or make a new account and still have that old one lingering out there. So. Yeah.
Well, Sue has a good question. I think that this kind of goes along with what we were just talking about because Instagram is a phone app primarily. That's how you post and things. So what if the church doesn't have a cell phone? Is it possible to just use the desktop version of Instagram? You can't add pictures and things that way. So what do you recommend?
I guess we already answered that a little bit, but most churches don't have their own church cell phone. So it would be somebody personally using their own device.
Okay.
Unless
So
you
that's what people do that use
yeah,
Instagram.
unless
They
you
use their
do
device.
have a church cell phone, which we don't,
Right.
or have the budget for to purchase one of those, but some churches do. I guess that would be the best way if it was just a church cell phone, so it's not on anybody's personal device. But really,
Sure.
I think if some churches lack the manpower or the person power to put behind doing all these different things. People are like, oh my gosh, there's a Facebook and there's an Instagram and there's a Twitter and I've got other things to do. So as far as making it a priority, but it can be a group effort. There you can log in to the account on multiple devices, which is why you would have more than one admin. So somebody who takes a picture in an event, it would be somebody else that might be recording or Instagram living, and we'll get to that in a second, a worship service.
Sure.
So, you might not have a church cell phone, but, many people now in most areas have smartphones. So I will say, just to go back actually to some of the basics, once you do set it up, I did want to point this out as we got some questions. There is a difference between a personal account and a business account. And you can actually, once you do create your church's account, or if you already have a church account and you haven't done this yet, which is really, I think a lot of people probably have, you can actually, if you open up Instagram on your phone right now, there's 3 bars in the top right corner, and then you're going to get a menu. You can hit settings at the bottom, and then on there, there's a place in there, depending if you have a business account or not, there's different options. But to switch your account to a business account. This gives you insights. You can boost posts. It just gives you more capabilities. You can add your address, your email, just stuff like that. So if you do have a church account or you're making one, you do want to switch to a business account. And also, some people I think were concerned that they have a personal account already, a personal Instagram account for themselves. The good thing about Instagram, and it's kind of a newer feature, is that they've allowed you, instead of, it's kind of a pain to log out of one account to log into another one and do that. And if you have a Snapchat and you're doing Snapchat at your local church, you're still having to face logging in and out of each account. But Instagram added the feature a while back that you can actually switch between accounts. So you'd actually, you can, if you're logged in, let's say to your personal account right now, you create a new account for your church, or you already have one, but they're not connected. And by connected, just that you can easily switch. They're not really connected, but to easily switch between them, you actually just go to that settings area as well, and you can add an account. At the very bottom of that, you can add an account, and then you just go to your profile, and if you've added it successfully, you click on your name at the top, and you should be able, there's a drop down and you can pick your account. I have 5 on mine because just from the various, church, personal, even the accounts like the denominational Instagram account here.
Sure,
So
right.
it's very, it's nice that they added that, because when we first started, when we got into Instagram for the denomination and for my local church, I was having to log in and out of each
Sure,
of them. So
right.
that was painful.
It gets to be quite a pain when you're posting as much as you do, and on all the different platforms. Let's get into how you actually build a following. We had a lot of questions related to this. So how do you go about getting that following?
Okay. So, I think part of this has to do with how much content you have and posting content. And we'll get to some of those ideas because some people don't know what exactly might be the best thing to post or what to use or what photos or stuff. But to build a following, you need to have content. You do need to be producing some sort of content, posting photos and videos. I think it's good to, each social channel is a little bit different. So on Facebook, I say post at least a few times a week. I would do that here as well. It just keeps you active, but post as often as you have a good photo or video. Don't just post to post. I would say quality is over quantity here, but a few times a week, if you can work up to that, if you're just starting out, that would be good. Whether that's, well, we'll get to content in a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, it's just it's good to that would help you build your following. Also, you can promote your Instagram account, like I said, on the sign outside. people that are passing by if you have a letter sign, or also in church bulletins, or on your other, if you have a Facebook page, say, hey, we just got an Instagram account, or we already have one, follow us on Instagram. You can do that. You can cross-promote your channels on each one. That's helpful. Also, you can encourage your congregation to take photos at church or at church events and tag your church by your username. You can tag them in the photo. You can use it in the caption, enjoyed our young adult group at Glendale UMC in their post. And, if somebody might be looking for that sort of group or whatever you're promoting or that person's photo is capturing, they might follow your church's page just because they saw that on one of their friends' profiles. You can also use hashtags on posts. You can create a hashtag for your church. So I have hashtag Glendale UMC. You can also feed into more general hashtags depending on if it's an event, and there's already a hashtag there. You can get into the photo conversation. It's not like Twitter where you're getting in the conversation really, but sharing your photo more widespread through hashtags. I would use hashtag UMC. That gets you into the United Methodist general hashtag photo bank, I guess you could call it. And just anything that's specific to what your photo's about. So I wouldn't over hashtag. I think that's spammy. So I use from anywhere from like 1 to 5. Just relevant hashtags. Don't just hashtag to hashtag because I don't personally think that looks very good. But I guess the more helps. But anyway. Let's see, you can also, so something that I've done is as you're building your audience, you can follow people that are connected to other local churches or, other pastors or leaders in your conference because you want to target people, especially as you're starting out building your audience, people in your congregation, people that are already in the United Methodist Connection because they're more willing probably to engage your post, follow you back for one, but also to engage with your post. And, Facebook and Instagram is now owned by Facebook. So, there's algorithms in the background that you want people to be engaging with your post and liking and commenting. And the more that they do that, the more that Facebook, especially Facebook, but I think Instagram does it as well, they'll deliver your post into people's newsfeed or into your photo feed on Instagram. So, and you can also, be sure to like, when you start following people, you need to like their posts too. So engage with their posts, even if it's people that don't go to your church, like they might be looking for a church, you never know. So, go like and comment on their post. They just had a new birth. We'll comment, congratulations, we're praying for you. Do stuff like that. Just try to make, these social channels are about making relationships and connections. It might not translate, I'll be honest. These people that you're interacting with might already go somewhere, but you never know when they might be looking for something else or something that you offer that where they're at doesn't offer, or they don't go anywhere. And they're looking for that church community. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this raises a question about following, and Janelle raised this question. Should I follow everyone that follows me back? If I don't follow them back, I notice that they will unfollow our account. So how do you tackle that in your own Instagram accounts?
I think it looks good for an account to follow around the amount of people that are following it. Of course, as you're building your audience, you're going to be following more people than follow you. But I would, and I think part of this question, she said that she vets before she follows back on the church's account, which is good. Some people are just out there because you'll get random follows. It's either a fake account or it's people that are just fishing for follows. And no matter if you follow them or you don't follow them, they're going to unfollow you just because they want their follower count to go up. So you don't have to follow everybody. If it's somebody that's unrelated or it looks spammy or it looks like they're just trying to add followers to their account, definitely you don't have to. I wouldn't recommend that. And, you're probably going to follow them and they're going to unfollow you anyway, no matter if you do or not. So it's not going to help you, and they're not looking to engage with your post either. So if you have this high follower count, yet you have nobody engaging, nobody liking your post or commenting, that doesn't look very good either. So it kind of looks like I don't know if you can really buy Instagram followers, but back in the day you could buy Twitter followers and stuff. I
Oh,
think you
sure.
still can. So that doesn't look good. And as far as Facebook and Instagram are so connected, you want that engagement. That engagement drives
Right.
the platform to deliver your posts for people to see. So it'll hurt you if you have a lot of people that follow you but aren't engaging with your posts. So yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a question that has to do with a lot of our churches. Um, Mark asked this question. We have an older congregation. They're mostly not on Instagram. So what about them? What do you recommend?
Well, what about them? I think I've touched on it a little bit, but what about them would be, if they're on Facebook. There are a lot of older adults that are on Facebook. Emails, if they have email, and traditional church newsletters. That's what about them. But these social media channels are, it's helpful to engage the people that are already in your pews, but it's really to to gain exposure to an external audience, to the people outside in the community. So that's the important aspect of having, to spend time and effort and maybe even a little bit of money through social media, and Instagram being very important for a local church to show. I mean, you get to pictorially show your story and what you're doing. So, it's not just about a post of, we're doing this or whatnot. It's you can actually visually show the awesome things that you're doing. And I feel like there's some concern, like, we have an older congregation. How do we show that or whatnot? My church growing up, that my grandmother's generation, that was all that was, the body of that congregation. And I remember thinking back, like, I had a lot of grandmothers back then. So, like, you can touch on those, you kind of, through social media, you're wanting to kind of tug at people's heartstrings and get their feels out, I guess. And that's how they're going to connect and build that relationship. So, you might only have 80-year-olds in your pew, but why does that 80-year-old love your church? Like, what does it do for her life? That might, that doesn't mean that that's an 18-year-old saying that, but that might connect with that 18-year-old, like, wow, you're trying to, you got to make connections. And, some churches might find that easier, and some might have to be a little bit more creative about that. So,
Sure.
But just because you have an older congregation and there's no young people or anything, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be on Instagram. And there's definitely a place for that. The younger generation, if that's what we're trying to reach through Instagram, they want to see that the church is doing something great for the community and being out. It's not just an internal, club. It's actually making a difference outside the walls. So there's definitely a place to do that. And I know that our older churches, or our churches that have a lot of older people, they're out there doing that. They're
Right.
Whether that is knitting a prayer shawl or serving at the food bank. I mean, there's opportunities to show that through Instagram.
Yeah, and that gets to our next question a little bit, which is how you find the content to share. And you gave some great examples just now of telling the story of what your church is doing is a great way to find that content and share your story.
Yeah. So I know that's a struggle. It's like, what do I post, or what do I, what am I taking a picture or video of? First off, I want to touch on like Instagram in the main profile. And used to, it was only that size, was square photos. So everything that was important in your photo needed to fit in this square shape.
Right.
And that's still sort of important for the main feed, but actually now it allows you to do horizontal, landscape photos, or portrait vertical photos. So I when I'm looking at a photo to post on our local church's Instagram, I just want to make sure that everything important is in this kind of a square shape. But it's not a bad thing to actually post vertical photos, because as people are swiping through their feed, if you do a vertical photo, that actually takes up more real estate of their
Most
feed.
people are scrolling vertically.
Yeah. So you're taking up more of that space. So hopefully they'll see it more, and maybe like it because they it kind of took up more space.
Right.
So that's kind of the size. take photos of your community. Like I've said, it gives an insight into what you're all about, what you're doing, and really, it's a mix of content. It's not just all worship. It's not all even mission. It's just you can mix it up. There's pictures. The United Methodist Church Facebook page. You can go grab stuff off of there. Just credit the photographer if there's a photo credit. But feel free to go grab that for your church's social media. You can share it off of that page if you're on Facebook, or you can just actually save the photos. That's all up for grabs, especially just as long as you credit everything that has a credit on it.
Sure.
And also this is a space to be positive. Show the positive light of everything you're doing that's great, what you think is great, that your church is doing out in the community and inside the walls. And you can also be invitational. So I know some churches use it maybe a little bit too much, but that sermon series that's coming up, we have all these graphics.
Right.
A lot of churches don't have a marketing team to put together graphics for a sermon series or whatnot, but you can promote it that way, or events that you're having, community events. You can promote it that way. Go grab a photo off of Google. I mean, it's really easy to find images that are good. You want something that catches eyes. Like that's what Instagram's all about, is catching people's eyes. One thing I will say is that you want to be careful with too much text on an image, especially on Facebook. As you're posting to Facebook, Facebook has a new tool that analyzes how much text is on the image, and it actually will not serve. So I'm assuming that probably Instagram has some of that too, to where there's a text overlay tool if you're wanting to go there. That might be a little bit past some people to do that, but there is a text overlay tool that is helpful in deciding if an ad will run, or even a regular post. It says ad. Will your ad run okay, or is there too much text on it for Facebook to actually deliver your ad? That actually works for just regular posts too. So that's a good guide. But just don't add too much. I think Facebook classifies it as an advertisement or spammy, which you don't see that much stuff on Facebook anymore that has all that just kind of garbage text all over it.
Right.
So I think that's really curbed a lot of that. But Facebook still looks at your content to make sure that you're not spamming people with just a photo with just a bunch of text all over it. You could do a meet a member, like a member spotlight, like I said earlier, like why did you come to this church? Why, what does it do for you? How has it helped you? That sort of thing. With a photo, it could just be a portrait of the person in the sanctuary, and kind of a brief, what this church means to me. That's a really good way to pique somebody's interest if they can kind of relate to that person. You could do short messages from the pastor. There's a 1 minute max on a profile post on a video, so you got to be short. But you can actually go live, and some people were like, they asked if they could live stream a worship service, and you can do that up to an hour. So that does give you some time there. As long as you don't go over an hour, it'll probably just, I haven't tried it, but I guess it would just cut you off. But you could do that. There's another app called IGTV, and that, so if you want to just do longer videos, longer than a minute, it's an app, and it's connected with Instagram. It's Instagram TV, so IGTV. But that's a whole nother story. But that allows you to have videos up to 10 minutes that you can post, and it's connected to your church's Facebook account. So it'll actually advertise at the top that Glendale UMC posted this video on IGTV, so people can actually go through it that way too. So I don't know how many. I haven't seen a lot of churches using it, but we've used it as the denomination just to post some of our longer videos.
Sure.
But again, that's just if you have some extra time to do. Since we're just focusing on just regular Instagram right now, I would definitely, that's definitely more important. We did get a question that along the lines of this that Sherilyn asked if it was possible to Instagram their live worship service. Definitely. For us, I will say just a challenge for the local church, which is why I bring this up. You might have people with smartphones, but as far as live streaming on Instagram, which you totally can do worship service or whatnot, or an event, If you're having a good community event that you want to kind of go explore, if somebody wants to talk about it in front of the camera and kind of walk around with you, uh, we have one phone set up in our sanctuary, and we're using that for Facebook Live. So if I wanted to Instagram Live the worship service as well, I would need a second phone. So right now, for my local church, we don't do Instagram Live. We find that probably Facebook Live, if I had to pick one, I would go that route. But if you have two cameras that you can set up in the sanctuary, like we just use an iPhone. I think people think that you need all this fancy equipment to live stream or to record your worship service. We use a camera, or a iPhone on a tripod in the second pew.
Okay.
It's that simple. But if you have two, that's fine. If you have the people, I just haven't put that effort into it, honestly, to have that second person recording
Sure.
every Sunday. But if you have that, I would go for it. Can't hurt. You're just reaching another audience with
Right.
the same content, and that just makes it easier. You're not having to create new things per channel. Dell asked if some content was private versus public. If you have a church account and it's not a personal account, if you have a personal Instagram account, you can switch it to private mode to where only your friends can see all your photos. If you have a business account for a church, if you've switched it to business, you don't have that option to make it private. So everything's public. So I would revert back to, if you think something needs to be private, you probably shouldn't be posting it on Instagram anyway. And there's Facebook groups for that, which is more the internal conversation. So if it's something private that's internal, you might want to go to a Facebook group and share that if you're wanting to get the message out about whatever that is. So that's a place to put some of that stuff.
Sure.
And also, be sure to make sure that your photo or video angles are good. You just always need to have in the back of your mind when you're taking a photo or a video, how does this look to somebody who's viewing this that's external? Is it good marketing? Like, does it make us look good? I've seen, and I've said this before in some other webinars that we've had, there's a church locally that likes to take photos that I've seen. They don't really do it anymore, but they take photos from the back of the back of the sanctuary, and there's like 15 heads in all these pews.
Sure.
It's just not a good angle. That doesn't market you well. It doesn't say, oh, I want to go to that church because they have so many people. So it's just, you just have to take into account how somebody's perceiving what you're posting. So that's why, at our church, we have 40 to 50 on a Sunday typically. So, but I still don't, and it's a pretty small sanctuary, but I still don't have the camera in the back. It's in that second pew facing right up. So there's, no matter if there's 20 or 70, nobody really knows that, but they're getting, front and center action of the whole worship service. So you just have to be creative with angles maybe sometimes, and just always look at it from how it looks to the outside, if it's marketing you well, I guess. Also, like I said before, content-wise, use photos that we have, Google stuff, like use Bible verses and hymn lyrics, like things that are familiar to people, or the new contemporary songs, some of the In Christ Alone. Like if something relates to your message coming up that Sunday, or a song that you might sing that Sunday, you can use that with a beautiful image that you find somewhere, as long as you have the rights to use it. And there's a lot of free images everywhere online.
Sure.
There's a great website called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. You can edit images. There's free images. It'll give you layouts like squares. You can make collages in different sizes. If you need a Facebook cover photo size, it has that already. If you need if you want to use a square photo, it has a square for you. It's just a great resource that we use here at UMCOM, and I know a lot of local churches use it because it makes your images look professional, and it's free. So that's the biggie. It's free.
Well, time is getting away from us, Stephen, and there are quite a few questions that I want to get to in the time that we have. And we've talked a lot about creating good posts and finding that kind of content. But there are a couple of questions that I want to get to. One would be, because we know that this is something that is geared a little more toward a younger demographic. We talked about the 59% being under the age of 30. Let me ask you this question. This is from TS. And this question is, this is a young people's forum. Is it okay to use stock images of young people, until you get that,
Mhm.
in other words, putting pictures on your account that have young people in it, even if they're not people that are in your church, is that okay? Will that help? Or what do you think about that?
So I try to avoid stock imagery just in general. There's some, like if it's a beautiful landscape that's stock imagery or something, or a sunset. There's stock
Mm-hmm.
images like that. Stock images of people seem to me at least to come off as stock images of people.
Mm-hmm.
I would even go on to say that it's somewhat false advertising, just because you don't have that group of people in there and you're wanting to portray, this is a place for young people or could be a place for young people. If you're using stock images for one, it probably looks like it's not real people that are connected to your community. But also, if somebody does come in and they don't see any of those people, it's like, well,
Right.
why did they use that photo?
Right.
So there's ways. You don't have to, if you're trying to grow your young adults or you're just trying to be on this platform, don't even use young people photos.
Mm-hmm.
Use beautiful photos of a sunset and relate it to a hymn lyric, or ask. And a way to build engagement is to ask questions on your post. Like use a beautiful photo or something that's on the UMC or you found somewhere else, and ask a question like, what's your, it doesn't always have to be religious. It can be, kind of a secular question of, I don't know, what's your favorite memory growing up or whatnot. And I'll reference back to my local church. If you want to look on Instagram, it's at Glendale UMC, GLENDALE UMC. Just looking at our feed right now, there's photos of our groups groups gathering to decorate the sanctuary for Advent. We've had quite a few people join recently, and I always am in that front row taking a photo while somebody is joining the church. That goes directly on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere I can put it, because that's a positive sign
Sure.
that there's
Right.
something going on in your door. We had three baptisms this last Sunday. That
Mm-hmm.
picture's on our feed. But there's other ways of connecting too, like Hanukkah just started. I
Mm-hmm.
posted a picture wishing our Jewish friends a happy 8 days of Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tagged the Jewish Community Center here locally in
Sure.
Nashville and some other local Jewish groups. And that's just a way to build connections and community with other organizations and other people, which actually might help build your audience. There's general things that don't have anything to do with Glendale, like on Thanksgiving, you can post a what are you grateful for post. We're trying to be intentional here in the denominational Facebook and other social media accounts to build engagement. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you ask questions that people will answer, and then you can respond back and forth to them. I post, even something like we got a new floor in our building. I posted updates of before and after photos because it just shows something, and that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a new
Right.
floor, that doesn't sound exciting. Does a young person really care about that? No, but there's something happening.
There's something
something
happening, and there's
forward
an
moving,
improvement being
an
made.
improvement that
Mhm.
you're, that's just a content idea. Is it super exciting? I use our marquee sign outside. I think a lot of churches underutilize that.
Mm.
Worship with us
Right.
at 10:30. That doesn't encourage me to go worship with you at 10:30. That's just not, that doesn't pique my interest. So utilize your sign. Like, what's the current event of the day that's going on that you can relate to. I'm just still looking at the feed. We have a child taking communion. I mean, it's just like, just be always on, like, thinking,
Sure.
what photo can I take that's going to, like, make a good impression out into
Absolutely.
the community. So,
Well, here's a question. This is from Gloria, and she's asking about having multiple Instagram accounts. So maybe you'd have an account for your youth ministry, maybe you'd have one for the children's ministry.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think some larger churches do tend to have multiple accounts, one for youth. I'll reference, I think, one of our local churches here, Brentwood UMC. They're the largest church, United Methodist Church in our area. I think they have different ones for their youth ministry and their student ministry and stuff like that. And I think that if you have enough content to feed those channels, then that's totally fine. I think for most churches, you probably can fit all of that into one main church account, because you want that main church account to be where people, go to see what's going on, or if, just to follow, to be your main hub of showing the story of your church. So I think for most people, if you have an awesome kids class photo or something, that can go all up under one main church account. So I would say for most churches, you can have just one. For the larger ones that have just a lot going on in different areas, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have that, and to cross promote between those if you do have multiple ones, just so you can build your following on all of them.
There are several questions related here. Some came in before, and some have just come in while we've had this learning session live. But people are asking what tools you would recommend for when you're managing multiple social media accounts.
So for Facebook, I always schedule things through Facebook, just because you can tag other churches, you can do that. Here at UMCOM and different advertising agencies, like secular ones, they use different tools like Sprout Social and everything. We use Hootsuite currently. We might move to Sprout Social, but right now we're using Hootsuite, and that capability recently came where you can actually you schedule Instagram posts. Before, you had to do everything through Instagram, or there was like this Instagram scheduler app that you had to have, and then you still had to manually post it. I don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't very helpful in my opinion, but now you can do all that through Hootsuite. So I have Twitter, Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, those profiles, and really, I think time management, or how much time is this going to take, is a concern. Most things can fit in everything. You might have to rewrite it shorter for Twitter,
Sure.
and you can post it long ways on, longer on Facebook, Instagram, and the others. But, one fell swoop. Don't make it harder than it's got to be. So Hootsuite, it's a free tool. I know some people probably don't like Hootsuite. I think there's somebody asked the question besides Hootsuite. But that's probably the easiest tool. If you do have a budget, Sprout Social, I hear, is amazing. So if you want to move, supposedly it gives a lot more inside metrics and information for a church to kind of look at and see what's going right and going, not doing well, and what could be improved.
Sure.
But if you're just starting out, or if you're just looking to make it as easy as possible for yourself, just go ahead and schedule everything on Hootsuite, except for Facebook. You can schedule a Facebook post on Facebook, but I would keep that in Facebook.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think we may only have time for one more question, and I want to get to it because it's an important question, especially as we're taking pictures of folks in our congregations. What about consent? Getting consent from people to use their pictures and that kind of thing.
No matter what social channel you're posting to, obviously having photos of minors, and really even adults, because some people don't want to be on camera. They don't want to be their photo likeness or whatnot be shared online. That still seems to be an issue, which is understandable, and there might be reasons behind that that aren't shared until you do it, and then you're like, somebody will come and say, please take that photo down for whatever reason. So I think just sharing awareness that you're either recording a service, where the camera is located, or that you're taking photos and that they're going to be posted. Like for, let's just say, an Easter egg hunt, let's just say a community event. We'll just generalize. A community event, have a sign-in, especially if there are kids. Have a sign-in on there, have a checkbox. That's what we do. Have a checkbox that says there are photos and videos being taken. It's going to be shared online. Sure. And they have to check that is okay, that they're giving consent. That's a hard one, because especially if you have a lot of people that aren't internal coming to something, it's hard to get everybody a consent form. I would just try as hard as possible to have that approval from everybody who might be in a photo, especially, or you could announce it to the whole group and say, if there's anybody who doesn't want to be on camera, come and talk to us and try to make that happen. So. Well, because you do want to respect privacy.
And the good thing is most folks are getting more comfortable with knowing that is something that they're going to be asked about.
Absolutely.
Well, Stephen, we're going to have to wrap things up. I want to thank you for sharing your vast knowledge of these different social media platforms and especially Instagram today. And we want to thank you all for watching. We hope that we've sparked an interest in using Instagram for your church, and maybe given you some tips if you're already on Instagram. You can email Stephen if you have further questions. His email address is sadair@umcom.org. So SADAIR@umcom.org. You can rewatch this learning session. You can go to the United Methodist Facebook page and see it there. You can also go to umcom.org/webinars. You'll also find some of our past webinars there on social media and other topics as well. So thanks again, Stephen. Thank you to all of you for watching, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.